Welcome back to News Around, the premier destination where the glittering facade of stardom is peeled back to reveal the complex, beating human hearts underneath. We are your sanctuary for in-depth analysis, bringing you not just the headlines, but the emotional landscapes of the Turkish celebrities you adore. Today, we turn our gaze to the Bosphorus, where a midnight encounter has shattered the silence and rewritten the narrative of one of Turkey's most exported stars. We are talking about Yaman, but not the Yaman you think you know. Before we dive into the details of his shocking confessions regarding Demet Özdemir and the enigmatic silence of Sawa, we invite you to become a permanent fixture in our community. Please subscribe and hit the notification bell. And for those who wish to be the true patrons of our investigative storytelling, enabling us to bring you these exclusive, deep-dive scripts, we strongly urge you to click the join button below. Your support is the fuel that powers News Around. Now, let us transport you to the neon-lit streets of Bebek for a night of revelation. The night in Istanbul possesses a unique rhythm, a heartbeat that is best felt in the upscale, winding streets of Bebek, where the Bosphorus laps gently against the shore and the city lights reflect upon the dark water like scattered diamonds. It was here, amidst this atmospheric backdrop, that the tabloid press, usually accustomed to the rehearsed smiles and guarded statements of the elite, was blindsided by an encounter that has since divided the industry. The lights stretching across the Bebek coastline seemed to burn with a strange, intensified brightness last night, as if spotlighting a stage set for a dramatic monologue. In the center of this luminescence stood Yaman, a figure who has spent the better part of the last year shrouded in a veil of privacy, letting his work in Italy speak for itself. However, last night, the silence was broken not by a press release, but by the man himself, who emerged from the shadows to cause a seismic stir with a radically new image and a series of statements that felt less like interview answers and more like a confession. The scene began with cinematic precision. A sleek black car pulled to a halt along the beach, its engine purring into silence before the door opened to reveal a Yaman who had evidently undergone a metamorphosis. Stepping onto the pavement, he marked an important new page in his public narrative purely through his physical presence. Gone were the polished, meticulous stylings of the Prince Charming roles that launched him to global fame. In their place stood a man defined by harder lines, a more rebellious air, and a posture that radiated a dangerous kind of confidence. He had practically shed the skin of the pretty boy and emerged as a darker, more complex version of himself. The phrase "from handsome to bad boy," but in a good way, began circulating on social media platforms almost instantaneously, becoming the mantra of a fanbase stunned by the transformation. It was immediately obvious that he had allowed his hair, which he had kept styled in a specific, marketable way for so long, to grow wilder, framing his face in a manner that suggested a liberation from past constraints. Now sporting a looser, bolder aesthetic, he looked like a man who had stopped caring about the rules. Many fans celebrated this shift with a collective sigh of finally interpreting the change as a return to authenticity. But as striking as his visual evolution was, the true shock of the evening lay not in the cut of his hair or the leather of his jacket, but in the words that fell from his lips. For the first time in recent memory, Yaman spoke openly about his private life, shattering the wall of no comment that usually guards his heart. This is a man who has mastered the art of deftly evading questions with the standard refrain, "Let my private life remain private." Last night, however, that shield was lowered. He did not back down. He gave direct, straightforward, and surprisingly honest answers that left the seasoned journalists surrounding him scrambling to record every syllable. Although the names Sara and Demet have hovered around his narrative like satellites for years, no one, absolutely no one, was prepared for Yaman to address the gravity of these relationships with such raw transparency. However, the culinary anecdotes were merely the appetizer. The main course of the evening was a dish served cold and full of bitterness, the truth about his heart. The triad of names Sara, Demet, Can has been a knot tangled by years of speculation, but last night, Can pulled the thread tight. The most intense, intriguing, and undeniably shocking part of the night was his confession regarding his relationships. When asked about his current or recent status with Sara, he did not flinch or offer a generic platitude. "We had a good and peaceful relationship," he began, offering respect to the bond they shared. But then, he uttered the phrase that sucked the air out of the Bebek night. But, as in all the relationships I've had, in this one there was the Demet Özdemir factor. This phrase, the Demet factor, is perhaps the most significant thing Yaman has said in years. It implies that she is the standard by which all others are measured. We turn this over to you, the insightful news around community. Do you believe it is fair to bring a past love into the narrative of a current relationship? Or is this just radical honesty that we should appreciate? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you are enjoying this deep analysis, please hit the like button to support our channel. He continued, his voice dropping an octave, I can't forget what I experienced with her. I'm doing everything I can to reconcile, but that hanging but became the heaviest silence of the night. It was a cliffhanger in real time. No journalist dared to interrupt, no continuation came from Can. He simply stared into the void, perhaps replaying memories that the cameras could not see. These words became a trending topic on social media within minutes. The reaction was polarized instantly. Some hailed it as pure sincerity, the act of a man refusing to lie to himself or the world. Others criticized it sharply, arguing, it's unfair to Saar, painting her as a casualty of his lingering nostalgia. The crowd was officially divided between those who romanticize the past and those who defend the dignity of the present. The conversation then pivoted to the volatile emotion of jealousy, adding another layer of complexity to the night. Some things happen, jealousy is normal. But we got over it a long time ago, he admitted. The ambiguity of this statement sent the press into a tailspin. To whom was this statement directed? Was he referring to jealousies within his relationship with Saar? Or was he referencing the tumultuous, passionate days with Demet? With which of the two did he get over it? Nobody knows for certain, and perhaps Can left the subject vague on purpose, allowing the mystery to linger like smoke. Why is all of this pouring out now? The context is crucial. Reminding the press that he was on a break from work, Yaman explained that he is currently navigating a more relaxed period in his life. He no longer has to endure the grueling 18-hour shooting marathons or memorize pages of script in a foreign language. This downtime has seemingly led to a lowering of defenses. It has led him to go out more, attend events, and naturally, have more visibility in the social scene. It is no wonder that the Yaman who maintained a reserved image for years is now appearing a little more open and extroverted. Idle time often leads to introspection, and introspection often leads to confession. As the night wore on, the interview, which began as a casual chat on Bebek Beach, quickly mutated into a mini press conference as a curious crowd gathered, drawn by the magnetism of the star. However, Yaman appeared surprisingly relaxed amidst the growing chaos. He didn't dodge questions or turn away. It was as if the words he had wanted to say for years, but had always held back for the sake of his career or image, were finally escaping his lips. When some bold journalists wanted to delve deeper into matters of the past, Can's response, accompanied by a brief, enigmatic smile, became an instant classic. Sometimes the past doesn't close the door to the future. Sometimes it just makes you think more. This statement was interpreted by the media elite as a nod specifically directed at Demet. Social media was once again set ablaze. Some claimed there's still a door open for Demet, fueling the hopes of the Can shippers, while others asserted this is just a subtle closing message, a way of acknowledging the past without inviting it back. But the real turning point, the headline that will likely dominate the magazines for weeks, was his clarification on the current state of affairs. What is behind the statement Demet and I get along? This was perhaps the most controversial phrase of last night. Demet and I get along well, we're at peace. The weight of this statement was especially significant for those familiar with the toxic rumors that have circulated around the couple since their initial separation years ago. 4 years, every time the two actors were seen together or mentioned in the same breath, the theories ran wild. Some thought it was a rekindled romance. Some interpreted it as a purely professional closeness, some claimed it was laying the groundwork for a new series. But the word peace, heard for the first time last night from Yaman himself, practically reignited the rumors. It suggests a burying of hatchets, a healing of old wounds, and perhaps, a foundation for something new. In the midst of this verbal storm, the silence from the other side of the Mediterranean is deafening. The fact that Sara has yet to issue any statement made last night's events even more shocking. According to the Italian press, who track her every move, Sara has been deliberately avoiding commenting on her relationship in recent weeks. There is a marked distance in her social media posts, a digital cooling that hints at private turmoil. She hasn't been as active as before with photos of the couple together, a modern-day sign of distress. This further fuels the speculation that they have divorced or separated, to use the more likely term. Some Italian journalists claim that Sara is waiting for Can to speak out first, playing a game of chess where silence is a strategy. Now that Can has played his hand, everyone is asking the same question. Will Sara speak out after these declarations? Will she defend her position, or will she fade quietly from the narrative? As Can Yaman stepped back into the Istanbul night, leaving the journalists with full recorders and spinning heads, one thing became clear: the story we thought was over is actually just beginning a new, more complicated chapter. The bad boy of Bebek has spoken, and the echoes will be heard from Istanbul to Rome. We are News Around, and we are dedicated to bringing you the truth behind the tabloids. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. And for those who want to support independent, in-depth entertainment journalism, please click the join button. Your contribution allows us to be there when the news breaks. Until next time, keep watching, and remember, in the world of fame, silence is often the loudest sound of all.